Jason Demers getting called up for my 700th game.
Which one of you is this a bigger honor for, Pierre?
It's an honor for me, man. You guys,
we're the originals.
The original got your backs.
That's right.
See, both the Ryan's worlds are colliding here.
They are. It's like
this is overwhelming for Rishaug.
I know, my two big brothers joining me on my podcast, and I'm afraid of what might happen. Hello, folks, and welcome to Got Your Back NHL edition. LeBrun and Rishaug and Struddy this week. Yes, Jason Strudwick making his debut on Got Your Back NHL edition. Going to talk about all things National Hockey League today. Great playoff races happening. Boy, there's lots going on in the league right now. It's a really exciting time of year. Also on the podcast today, Ottawa Senators star forward Brady Tkachuk. Was a fantastic interview. How does he feel about his teammates wanting to beat the crap out of his brother? Is it awkward for him when his best friends on the team literally want to strangle his brother? We ask him that question and a whole bunch more coming up in our Who's Got Your Back segment. Of course, Got Your Back brought to you by Cross Country Canada, supplies and rentals, where they do absolutely everything when it comes to the construction industry in this country. If you want to build a road, they have the know-how and they have the equipment, everything you need, from the survey equipment to plan it out, to haul and move dirt, even the material you lay down to stabilize the terrain. If it's a big construction job, Cross Country Canada has the know-how, the equipment, and the people to get it done. And really proud to have them as title sponsors here on Got Your Back, LeBrun, Rishaug, and Struddy. There he is. Struds, how you doing, my man?
Good. I'm excited. You know what? I got to say, I always appreciate Pierre LeBrun, and I can only say no to him so many times. You, it's easy to say no to. I'm not coming on. I'm busy. Yeah. I got to work on my one-arm push-up. But when Pierre texts me, it's like, all right, Pierre, I'm coming in, big guy.
Yeah.
Well, I just got to say, it's nice to have someone on finally who knows something about the Oilers, because they're having a great second half. Yeah. They're having a great second half, and let's talk.
Why you got to be like that? One new person comes on our podcast, and you completely turn on me, Pierre. Like that's it.
I went Dregs-like on you there.
Yeah. Well, Schauger still thinks the Oilers should trade for Chychrun. Trade Ekholm in the summer and get Chychrun.
Donkey. No bringing our local pod business onto the national pod, Struds. Because if you want to do that, I could talk about how horseshit you've been at calling goaltenders all year long.
I have no
Pierre,
idea.
Every single time I've asked Struds, what do you think they're going to do in net? He's gotten it dead wrong. No feel for the goaltending at Edmonton this year.
Like to be fair, I don't think NHL front offices are that sure about what they're doing in goal these days. Honestly, it's the most unpredictable position more than ever now, for sure.
Well, and things are going well for the Oilers in that position this year. Stu Skinner, maybe the front runner here for the Calder. Maybe we'll have a quick chit chat about that. Okay, guys, let's not waste time. Let's get to the breakdown, brought to you by our good friends at Kuma Outdoor Gear, where they've got a wide range of gear to fit all your needs, from tents and sleeping bags, travel, games, pet products, drinkware, as I continue to hoard the drinkware here from Kuma. But they're really excited about their new switchback heated chair. I have one. It's spectacular. The world's first heated chair powered by Bluetooth technology. It's got dual heat zones, one in the seat and one in the back. You can actually micro adjust it from your phone. It is so cool. Or you can do it manually. You can actually preheat your chair before you go outside if you want to. Struds, for the high maintenance camper out there. You can get it done. So they're available at outlets all across the country. Go to their website to check out where you can find their stuff. That is Kuma Outdoor Gear. Okay, gents, let's talk about the playoff races that we have going. A lot was determined last night, but still one spot left to be determined. Wild card in the East. Isles and Pens. Really, the Islanders just need Pierre to just grab a point against Montreal, and you stamp your way in there. I love games that come down to one night and you're in or you're not. What an opportunity for the New York Islanders.
Yeah, and I think the Habs have already emailed them the point before they get to the rink tonight.
Just text it over. There you go, guys.
I mean, and I say that in jest, obviously, but the Habs have looked to me like a team that for 90% of the season, there was a great fight in this rebuilding tanking for Bedard team where there was really not tanking. I mean, they were playing hard for Marty St. Louis. And then in the last month, you feel like the regular season was 1 month too long for them, especially with all the injuries they've had. But the Canadians have not been nearly as competitive. So if the Islanders don't get a point tonight against the Montreal Canadiens, then again, Blackhawks going into Pittsburgh and meeting the Penguins of Pittsburgh season on the line is absolutely mind-boggling from last night. And I watched a lot of that game. The body language not good on that Penguins team, and boy, it's not over yet. They could still get in, but if they don't, I think it's unbelievable that the symmetry between Ovechkin and the Caps and Crosby and the Penguins, perhaps missing the playoffs together in the same year after this 15-year run of unbelievable hockey for both organizations. There's a lot to chew on there.
You know, it's funny. I played on some bad teams, and you always say the right things, like, "Hey, we want to make these guys miserable too. We want them to miss the playoffs." And then they come out and push hard. You're like, it's okay. They can have the point.
I really don't want to go that hard into the corner.
It's too hard. Like, honestly, I'm 60 minutes, 20 shifts away from a summer. I don't want to get hurt out here. Like, they're obviously want to make the playoffs. And, you know, I remember one time it was just before this Olympic break, and Ryan Getzlaf was trying to make the Team Canada. Remember, I think he had an ankle sprain, Pierre. And,
right.
And he hadn't played well. All the eyes was all about Ryan Getzlaf. Is he going to play well? And we're all thinking, how good can he be? He's been out for a while. He's got a high ankle sprain. Well, I think he had 4 or 5 points that game. And we were like, he deserves to go. It's like,
he's earned it. Clearly, he's earned it.
It was so funny. You just get pushed out of the game. So, like, I don't know. I think it'd be a miracle if they don't get at least 1 point tonight against the Habs.
And I'll tell you who's not cheering for the Islanders is both the Bruins and the Hurricanes, because listen, the Bruins in particular will be massively favored against whoever they play in the first round. But you know, I wrote about this week in the piece I did on the Bruins. It's almost impossible to envision how they can't win in the first round. But I said, if you're going to force me to find a path against the biggest upset in years in the first round, it's the Islanders and Sorokin just saying, I'm not going to let a goal in. Which we've seen
he can do that
in playoffs past. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, arguably having the best season of any goalie in the NHL, and almost single-handedly keeping the Islanders in the race. And so I bet you both Boston and Carolina saying, you know what, we don't need the Islanders. You know, let's get
Struds,
get Pittsburgh in there.
Struds, what does your gut tell you about the Pittsburgh Penguins and where they're at in their trajectory? They've been so good for so long, in every year. It's a fantastic streak. What ended at 16 years here.
Yeah.
What does your gut tell you about what those guys look like they have left?
You know, I've watched them quite a bit this year. I love the way Sidney Crosby plays. And obviously Malkin's been a good player to tang those guys. But, you know, every day the sun sets, you know, and it's sooner or later it's going to set on every great club. And it just feels like they're running out of gas. And, you know, you look the last couple of years, it always feels like they're like one or two players short, right? And that's just, it's hard. It's hard to win. Everyone else is around you, and no one's going to take those nights off against the Pittsburgh Penguins. You have, you know, players that are the same, not many guys the same age as Sid, but young players coming up, they want to take a run at him. They not like physically, but they want to beat that team. So there's no free nights for that team. So it just feels like the last couple of years they're always short, and then they're trying to chase in it. And then, you know, Pierre, you bring up the point about what Washington did, you know, selling off a couple pieces and kind of bringing in for someone for a first rounder. Maybe they saw the writing on the wall, and Pittsburgh kind of didn't do that. So where are you at this summer, right? Like I want it to end well for Sid and Malkin and Letang, but I don't know if we're going to see it end well for them.
And I'm not just saying this in hindsight. I mean, Ryan, we talked about this before the start of the year. I really questioned the decision of the Penguins to keep pushing that window open last summer. They had their first opportunity last summer with Malkin and Letang up to say, okay, what are we doing here? And they gave both those guys long-term deals.
Expectations from above, though, right?
That was pressure from ownership, I believe, from my understanding. So Ron Extall didn't have much choice. And listen, it's not like Malkin and Letang have been terrible this year. Not at all. They've been really good. Crosby's been the best player on that team as usual. Another point per game season. Ridiculous. But my point is, now those guys are all locked up. Like everyone's going to say if the Penguins miss, okay, time to retool, time to do this. Okay, but all those guys are signed. So Last summer was a time where if you really wanted to make a tough decision and say it's time to pivot here, then you say goodbye to Malkin and Letang. I mean, it is what it is, or at least one of them.
Moving over to the West, Winnipeg Jets clinch with a win over Minnesota. Anybody else wish that it was Winnipeg and Minnesota in the first round? Oh. That was a nasty game. Holy smokes. And so Ryan Reeves on the ice in the last minute ends up getting into a scrap with Adam Lowry. And good on Adam Lowry. That's a big, tough customer he took on. He did a decent job against him.
But really, you think that's good? I was thinking, what is Adam Lowry doing?
Yeah,
like, I don't understand.
Yeah, in some ways I agree with you, Pierre, but the flow of the game, how nasty it was, you had good players getting targeted, good players getting hit.
Right.
Yeah, you make a fair point. You do. Sometimes, and Struds, I'll let you speak to this because you had to do this. Sometimes a team has to draw a line in the sand, and I think Adam Lowry sensed that was last night.
And it's a great way of putting it. I mean, Lowry, he's always been like that, right? Like it stops with him. And there was a lot of hits like Pionk's cross check, like that was vicious. I hit it. That is round 3 or 4 vicious right there. But I think for Lowry, he saw what was coming out and he's like, hey, enough. Like I'm gonna put this guy in his place. And I love it. I think it's a big moment for that team. The Jets have been looking for something. Pierre, you look at the last, just go back a month. Who was scoring for this team? What was going on? They were one of the best teams, if not in the league, at least in Canada. And then they fell off. Their coach is wondering what's going on, and they have all hell's breaking loose. And now they seem to be going on. I think they have to play a little bit rough to be successful. Then you got that goalie in the back behind him. I mean, it's a good I think it's a dangerous playoff team, Pierre. And it actually, for other teams in the Western Conference, that's not the team I wanted to get in probably.
Well, they're dangerous despite how lousy they've been in the second half. They've suddenly found a spark late here, which is always a thing you look for a team that suddenly goes into the playoffs hot. And B, Connor Hellebuck. I mean, now, like you saw it again last night. I mean, Connor Hellebuck, we just talked about Sorokin and the path to if the Islanders can get in and shock someone. Well, Connor Hellebuck still handily can do it. I understand where you guys are coming with on Lowry, and listen, there's not a player on that team with more character than Adam Lowry. He's done it his whole career. And you guys are probably right that in that moment it sends a message. I just worry
you're probably
when I see that fight. I worry about the injuring himself right before the playoffs. He's such an important player on that team. I mean, Minnesota will take that fight every time. Like, let's be honest. Like,
and Strud, you used the phrase that he put him in his place. I mean, I would say, Ryan Reeves is sitting there going, I did my job, and I don't think Ryan Reeves got put in his place at all. And I know where you're coming at with that. Mm-hmm. Lowry drew that line in the sand, and I think more than anything, I think it's more about what it does for his team than how it affects the Wild in any way, right? His team would galvanize around that. And I think that matters. But Pierre, your point is really fair. Risk of injury, fighting that player at this point in the season, probably not. Okay, let's talk about the fight we all wanted to see that we never did see. Here's the tale of the tape. Rick Bowness, 6'1", 68 years old, 400 penalty minute seasons. Dean Evason, 58 years old, 5'10", 600 penalty minute seasons. You see Bowness? He was pissed. And Rick Bowness is not a guy that we see that from a lot. And Evason kind of gave him the, come on over. Like, come on over. And Bowness is giving him the, I think he was calling him short there. Struds, both guys a little bit, I'm sure. Who you taking, man?
I don't know. They're so old. I don't know. It's like those two old CFL guys beating each other with their canes.
I remember that video.
I don't know. I mean, it's funny. I mean, you know what? If you're a guy if you're on one of those teams, you're loving it. You love when your coach gets fired up. And the juice and everyone was so intense. And like, that's what you want to see. Too many nights, I do feel that the NHL is pretty vanilla. Yeah, you wait for that one highlight reel where someone does the Michigan. That takes a second, right? And the rest of the time, it's, hey, buddy, what's your Instagram handle? Or, you want to join the Facebook's club I'm on or whatever it is? Like, that was an angry game, and the coaches were mad. And don't think it's not awkward. There's only 32 NHL coaches. Like, they're going to run into each other, and these two are challenging each other.
What'd you think, Pierre? Who you betting on, buddy?
They'll laugh it off when they go to the coaches meeting at the draft in Nashville. Come on. I mean, I remember Ken Hitchcock and John Tortorella years ago in the Eastern Conference Final, and those guys are longtime pals now. But, it's a reminder. You're right, Jason, most of the regular season, you don't see that kind of emotion in this league anymore. We're about to see it. And I think what happened last night is a reminder of what's just around the corner here next week. The greatest 2 weeks of the year in this league now, the way the game is now played, is the first round of the playoffs. Because in the first round of the playoffs, guys who have not gone around and really body checked anyone for 82 games are now flying around like their life's on the line. And the first round of the playoffs is complete mayhem. NHL player safety is so scared about the first round of the playoffs. Like there's something to watch on every shift. And it's the emotion of we're coming out and we've got a point to make. And the reason I think a lot of younger hockey fans are always taken aback is because this is not their NHL, right? We're used to it because we're old guys that this is how it was every night back in the day. But I can't wait for next week because the game becomes physical for about 2 weeks a year. And then as you're a team that's trying to go all the way to the cup final, you start to make more business decisions and be smart because you got to take care of your body and go deep into playoffs. It's the first round. Oh my goodness.
First round's going to be awesome. Wish it was Minnesota and Winnipeg. Okay, we could do 20 minutes on the Flames, but as the boss here on the podcast, I'm keeping us to about 35 to 40 seconds each. We're going to hit on it, and then we're going to move on. A sputtering season, sputters to a terrible finish. I heard Craig Button on Jay Onred's show, and I thought he summed it up really well. He said, they had a lot of good players on that roster that didn't have very good seasons, includes the goalie, Huberdeau, Kadri's second half. They have a good coach who didn't have a very good season in Daryl Sutter. I thought there were a lot of moments this year where I was shaking my head going, what is he doing? What is he doing with this? The comments about Huberdeau, being hard on young players. Just there's been things all along the way. And then finishes it off by sitting Toffoli on the bench during a shootout that had their season on the line. Struds, that's my 35 to 40 seconds. You go next. Sum up the mess that happened in Calgary.
Yeah, I expect them to be a playoff team at the beginning of the year, and obviously that's not going to happen. But if I'm that group, I've got to figure out, Huberdeau and Kadri, and quite frankly, Markstrom. Tons of money locked up in those guys. They're not going anywhere. But for Huberdeau to have less than half the number of points he did the previous season, I mean, that's stunning. A huge drop-off. That's like McDavid going from 150 to 70. Like, it's crazy. And so you got to figure out what did he do differently or do wrong, if that's fair. But then what did the organization or the coach do that was wrong for him not to get those types of numbers, even close to approaching 100 or 90, Pierre, because he wasn't even close to a point a game.
It's actually fascinating because if you look at it, Huberdeau's decline is unbelievable. But also Johnny Gaudreau's maybe predicted decline from his numbers last year going to Columbus. Now, a lot of that is what was happening on the last place team in Columbus. The only guy who doesn't matter where he plays, I guess, is Matthew Tkachuk, who just crushed it. Knocked it out of the park this year. Yeah. But listen, I talked about this on Insider Trading last night. I mean, there's only one discussion to be had right now with the Flames and what happens with Brad Treliving. I mean, you have to figure that out before you go to anything else with the Flames.
Is it a scenario where they want him back, do you think, Pierre? Or is this neither side is sure at this point?
So what has happened so far is that when Daryl Sutter got signed to a 2-year extension before the season, the ownership at the same time, unbeknownst to a lot of people, but we've since reported on it, ownership was also talking to Brad Treliving about an extension for him. So I think the plan was to extend both the GM and the coach at the same time. It didn't happen with Treliving. Now, I want to be careful in getting into why I think it didn't happen. But clearly, I think Brad Treliving, and this is my own opinion, it's something I'm reporting, but I think Brad Treliving needed time to think things over. He's been there 9 years. And, I think back to Mark Bergevin at the end after 10 years in Montreal and sort of the battle scars. I don't know how long you can be a GM in a Canadian market without it becoming so overwhelming. Now, listen, Brad Treliving in 3 days could sign an extension with the Flames, so I'm not saying he won't. But I think it's clear if you read between the lines that he's had to think a lot about next steps here in his career. And, the other question is, ownership wanted to extend him in the fall. Do they still want to extend him now? I don't know that for a fact, but we'll see.
All right, that was 2.5 minutes more than I had allotted for the Flames, so that means we're going to have to cut back on the Leafs. Yeah, no, it is a big story. Struds, you kind of make a little living on the side by chirping the Leafs on local radio, which then buys you a spot on Overdrive because you get a little bit of attention. So you love doing that. You send up Leaf flares from Edmonton, and then the guys on Overdrive are like, "We gotta have Struds on." So it's a much loved segment on Overdrive anytime you were on. But I put it to you, Struds, Like the Leafs are not messing around this year from trade deadline to, I mean, they sat a guy with 99 points last night just because they want to make sure everybody's rested and go. Nothing matters more than the postseason for the Maple Leaf Struds. They're locked and they're loaded. Do you think there's any way Tampa Bay can beat the Leafs?
So to be clear, I really like the Leafs team. I don't like their fans, just so we're completely honest here. And that's just the truth. I didn't like them when we played, so it's not like this is new from, just recent.
Do we want to get into why? I don't know, Pierre, do we want to poke that or do we just leave that? Do we just let that slide?
I think he speaks for the rest of Canada. Let's be honest.
The sheer arrogance. They're just arrogant. They're an arrogant fan base, and I love that they haven't won anything. But I think that's about to change. I think that this year they will get past Tampa. My only concern, my biggest concern for the Leafs is understanding their D pairings. They have a lot of D. I just don't know how they all fit together and what that'll look like. Now, this isn't Tampa of 2 or 3 years ago where, maybe they have to be perfect. They might be able to figure this out on the fly, but they have a lot. I just don't know how they all fit together, Pierre. And I think that would be my big concern for the Leafs. But I do think they're going to have a series win finally.
And
Pierre, do you think Tampa can beat them? Sorry, I'll put you on the spot too. Do you think Tampa can beat the Leafs? Would either of you pick Tampa over them?
Well, they can because of the human equalizer. The best goalie in the world is still in goal for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but the Lightning have not been good for a couple months. Yeah. So I too, I think the Leafs are finally going to win their first playoff series in 19 years. 19 years ago, next Thursday, I'm looking at my calendar, April 20th is when Joe Nieuwendyk scored twice in Game 7 and the Leafs beat Ottawa. Is the last time they won a playoff series. 19 years ago, next Thursday. I think it changes. I do think the Leafs are going to win. They've been way more consistent team in the second half than Tampa. But again, the human equalizer is the human equalizer. This is what is crazy about the NHL. It's like a theme in the show. Sorokin, Hellebuck, Vasilevsky. And we're frankly at a time where we don't have as many goalies like that than we used to have. But those are 3 of them for sure. And so I think the Leafs are the deeper team, the more consistent team. But Ilya Samsonov just has to make sure he does his job. Doesn't have to steal a game. Just do your job. And I think the Leafs will win.
What do you think the lead up to that playoff series will feel like for the Leafs, Pierre? And you'll be there right in the middle of it, asking the annoying questions in all of the press conferences, just like you were with Markstrom last year in the Battle of Alberta. You're picking away at the side of his head. People are going to pick away at the Leafs in that 4 or 5 day gap. I honestly wasn't trying to get the
Markstrom. I naively thought he had talked about this before, and I wanted to know why he didn't sign with Edmonton.
Why he didn't sign in Edmonton. So you asked him, was it a game day you asked him? I think
I also asked Johnny Gaudreau if he was leaving during that series.
I know.
But anyway,
well, you love it.
But
right?
Anyway,
the big guy comes in from the...
So I think what will be fascinating to me leading into Tampa, Toronto, is that John Cooper is the master. He put on a show last year in the first round of the playoffs with the media. Like, his quotes last year, especially before Game 7, about being a dynasty and knocking through that door and making tonight about your legacy. John Cooper's unparalleled. And so I think that he has to become the center of the spotlight again because his team is struggling. Right. And I think that he has to go into this series and put some ideas in the Leafs' head about their playoff demons and just change the narrative a bit heading into the series. That's what I think we'll see.
Struds, does anything the coach says up at that booth, at that podium matter when the puck drops? Do the players pay attention? Would it resonate?
I don't think a lot of, at least I for sure didn't read much what the other coach said. I really didn't care. And I think for the Leafs, that's a huge thing. I think they have to make the world very small. I think they have to just worry about what's going on in their own dressing room and just worry about one period at a time. You can't think about what happened last year and previous years or the 19 years, whatever it is. They just have to worry about this group. This is a new group. They've got to find a way to get it done just period by period. Because otherwise that media market is top. And that market, not the media, the market is huge and he can get lost in it. I think that
those fans too, hey Struds, those fans.
Yeah, well, the fans, yeah, but the fans have all the answers. But I think that if you make your world too big, you can't handle it. Don't think about what is going to happen in 2 games. That first game, just worry about that, and then Pierre's point about goaltending is huge. That's a huge thing. But they've got some goal scorers that can score. But I do feel pretty comfortable saying the Leafs will win it. But it only if they don't let their world get too big.
Moving. You got one? Go ahead, Pierre.
Ilya Samsonov, one career playoff win. So, but he's had a wonderful year. He's been one of the great off-season additions among the goalie fraternity.
You know how many NHL playoff wins Stu Skinner has?
Yeah.
So he's doing it for the first time.
Right.
He's been an amazing story here at Edmonton. Really has saved their season because, McDavid and Draisaitl can only do so much. And if they weren't getting goaltending this year, potentially the leader in the Calder, would we all kind of nod our heads at that? What do you think?
I think Beniers is going to win. You look at some of the Vegas odds on the Calder; they're still giving it to him pretty handily. And I think it's one of those weird things where I think rookie goalies often get overlooked.
Bennington didn't, although he had the crazy save percentage.
Yeah, I know he's certainly going to be prominent on my ballot, but a pretty good season in Seattle there by Matty Beniers. We'll see. I think it'll be close between those two.
Pierre, are you willing to open up your DMs and let Oiler fans start campaigning for your vote?
Hey, I love Oiler fans. Unlike Jason, I have time for other Canadian fans, Jason. And I will be around the Oilers at some point in the first round. So I'll
look forward to it. Struds, in the time that you've been watching and covering the Edmonton Oilers, sorry to cut you off, Pierre.
Oh, it's okay.
I've never seen a team playing the way this team is playing, Struds.
That's actually what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
That's where you were going to go. Okay,
yeah,
go
they're
ahead.
The best team in the league right now.
Yeah.
Other than Boston.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't that be a great series? Wouldn't that be a great series? And I do. I think the Oilers. This is the best team I've seen them put together. I think I'd even include 06. Like, it's a really
for sure
team. Obviously, Chris Pronger is a bit of a changes things a little bit, but I not to get into the game too much last night, but they beat the Avs, but the Avs are without four important people. And the one guy who is probably equal to Connor McDavid in the way he affects the game, that's Cale Makar. Obviously no Manson, no Lehtonen, and no their captain, Gabe Landeskog. So four significant pieces for the Edmonton Oilers for the Avs they didn't have. And Makar being the top of that heap. I like Landeskog, don't get me wrong, those other guys have an effect, but it's just a different team without Makar out there. So the Oilers, assuming they can get through a couple rounds, when they get to play that team, that's over a month away from now, Pierre. And that Cale Makar, man, that guy, I think he affects the game as much as Connor does.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Colorado. Colorado and Edmonton have been the two teams in the West since mid-February. Mm-hmm. And Colorado, it's a question of how healthy can they be in time. Are Terry Lehkonen skating right now? That's huge for them ahead of the playoffs. Let's not sugarcoat. I know I don't live in the market like you guys do, but let's not sugarcoat what the Oilers are right now. This is the best Oilers team since the 1990 Stanley Cup champions.
Yes.
Like, come on. Like, this is who they are. They got the two best players in the world in their team. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins gets no love outside of the market for what incredible year he's had. Evan Bouchard has replaced Tyson Barrie on the historically good power play, and no one's even blinked twice. Matthias Ekholm is the best trade deadline acquisition this year.
Just 17-2-1 with Ekholm, Pierre.
So there's not a single. Evander Kane is, to me, again, come playoff time, is a complete difference maker. This is like, no one wants to play the Edmonton Oilers in the first round. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Stu Skinner does, right, when the bright playoff lights get shining.
Sure.
But every challenge he's been faced with this season, a huge regular season games against LA. He beat the Boston Bruins, just beat the LA Kings a couple of times. Then, of course, another win last night. It's been pretty impressive stuff. Okay, before we wrap up and get to red card, yellow card, no card, Quizmaster wanted me to put you on the spot, Pierre, and ask you where Erik Karlsson's going to be next year. Closing out just a spectacular season, but it feels a little uncertain as to what's going to happen. So I know you love those questions. It's him doing it to you, not me.
Yeah, I can't answer that right now because I think that the first round of the playoffs and the potential exits will have a great bearing on the offseason trade market, honestly. And it's not a cop-out. I really think that we'll have a much clearer idea of some trade scenarios after some teams are pretty upset with what happened. And we're going to have some pretty good teams losing the first round by virtue of all the 2-3 matchups. I know Edmonton was in there on Karlsson. We all do. We've talked about it. And
that doesn't work anymore.
No, so that's what I mean. So the Sharks have to go back to the drawing board and recreate a market. And the other thing that I would say really affects the market, Well, it's two things. One is that the cap looks like it's only going up $1 million. A league source reminded me again yesterday. I checked in on that. That's a huge dynamic. I mean, even if it was going up 2 or 3 instead of 1, you're a team trying to figure out that Karlsson deal and how much San Jose can retain. Number 2, Erik Karlsson decides where he goes. And I think that's the part of it that we never mentioned. Like, let's say, I'm going to use a stupid example. Well, let's say Columbus wins the lottery. They got Connor Bedard. They got Johnny Gaudreau. They got Zach Werenski back after missing the whole year with an injury. And Columbus has tons of cap room. And Jarmo Kekalainen says, hey, I'll take Erik Karlsson. Is Erik Karlsson waving? So, he might. I don't know. I'm just saying that it's not just about, we found the one team that can swing this. Yeah. Is it the one team that Erik Karlsson's willing to wave for? And when he was on our this podcast, Ryan, a few months ago, boy, did he wanted to make a point to one of your questions, which was, I want to win.
And his family would be supportive of that.
Yeah, but my guess is his list of teams with his full no move is probably like 3 or 4. So that's why I mean the first round of the playoffs, I think, are going to greatly affect how all these things can work together.
But I think it's worth noting too, though, like he wants to play out his career at, San Jose. I have a hard time seeing that team being competitive anytime soon. So does he want to just fade to black on a bad team? And I don't know. Those guys all want to win, Pierre. So I hear and understand what you're saying, but I think he might have to be a little bit more open to ideas. Otherwise, like, how many years for San Jose? Are we talking 3 till they're?
Oh yeah, it's at least a 3-4 year project, eh?
Yeah. No, I think he wants to move.
Yeah.
But I think he's got an idea of the places and it's funny, if you remember when he was on with us, Ryan, out of nowhere, unsolicited, we didn't mention that team. He talked about Tampa out of nowhere. It was like, started getting into Tampa. It was like, well, you know why? He's buddies with Hedman.
Yeah, and go play with your buddy Vic Hedman, right?
And
that'd be a tough pairing.
A perennial winner, but Tampa can. I mean, Tampa's they've got extensions kicking in next year for Chernak, for Cirelli, for Sergachev. I mean, zero chance Tampa can get in on that.
All right. Great stuff, guys. Oh, excuse me. A little voice crack there. That was the breakdown brought to you by Kuma Outdoor Gear. Struds, you've never got to play Canada's favorite game.
No.
Red card, yellow card, no card.
All right.
I'm going to present a scenario and you guys will be the judges. We'll all be the judges. Now, I have to preface this one a little bit. I never pile on to my fellow media members. I make a point of it. Mm-hmm. But we're going to a little bit today. But we have permission to do it. So about 5 months ago, I'm standing next to Gene Principe from our good friends at Sportsnet. Beloved figure here in town. And I look down at his phone. Gene Principe's lock screen on his phone is a shirtless picture of himself. Can't make this stuff up. Not making this up. It is a shirtless picture of himself. Here's what happened. First of all, Gene has ancient phones. He never has the most up-to-date phone. He's just barely off the BlackBerry with the scroll wheel. So he doesn't know the way the technology works. He tried to add a photo of his family in Hawaii onto his phone as his lock screen, but it automatically cropped it. And all it is him smiling shirtless on the beach. I saw that. I said, Gene, you need to change that. He's like, yeah, I know. I said, no, you really need to change that. He's like, I know. 3 months later, I saw it again on his phone. And I said, Gene, you got to understand something here. If you don't change that, I'm going to have no choice but to talk about it on my podcast. This is that you have a shirtless picture of yourself on your phone. He's like, yeah. I said, do you want help? He goes, no, I got it. Guys, a couple weeks ago, it was still there. And so I snuck up behind him and I snapped a picture of it over his shoulder. And I said, Gene, I'm giving you a couple of weeks. And if it is still there in a couple of weeks, I have no choice. He said, I understand. So listen, I'm going to flash the picture quickly. Now, I talked to Gene last night. He was okay with us doing this. I did double check. He said, no, I deserve it. I've earned it. You gave me more than enough time. I'm going to see. There it is, boys. Gene Principe's lock screen on his phone. Shirtless picture of himself.
By the way,
Pierre?
always great hair on Gene.
Oh, and he's in great shape too. It's annoying, right? Although he did specify this was from 2015. So this isn't the 74-year-old Gene Principe that we now know. But he's all flash it one more time. That's it. If you're just listening on podcast, go to YouTube.
Thank God it wasn't a picture of me we're showing.
Pierre, you get to go first, man. Red card, yellow card, no card.
Yeah, red card all day. I mean, come on. Your lock screen has to either be your favorite place in the world, which it is for me. It's a picture of the lake where a cottage is, or it should be a picture of your kids. Come on. It's got to be one or the other.
He tried.
It can't be a shirtless picture of you. That's a full red card. No explanation needed.
Struds.
Confidence is high, and I respect that. I think no card. Let the guy show his good looks off. He's an attractive man. And listen, Gene's a smart guy. He could have figured out how to change if he really wanted to. He was just playing you. He's happy that it's out there. Now everyone sees this picture of him with no shirt on the beach. He's all lubed up. Put some tanning lotion on, maybe a little bit of baby oil to get a little bit darker. So no card for me. I respect the high confidence in Gino.
Yep. The other thing we got to remember the magazine cover Gino did with his beautiful wife, right? Laying shirtless in bed, snuggling with his wife on the cover of the magazine. I got to see if I can. I might have that too. I'm not sure. I don't think Edify will mind if we just kind of flash that really quick. Have you seen that one, Pierre?
This is your breaking news to me right now. I had not seen that before.
So we've got a red card. We've got a no card. I'm going to go yellow card because I kind of agree with you, Struds. He's not a guy that sees it and panics. Is like, oh my God, I get it off of there. Because he knows, right? He's in good shape. He takes care of himself. He works hard. You got to enjoy the fruits of all that work.
Maybe I'm just jealous. I've just shown my own insecurities. Yeah.
I mean, I would have a shirtless pic of me off that phone immediately. But Gino's letting her buck. And I think that I definitely respect that. But it still is a shirtless picture of himself on his lock screen on his telephone. And as much as we love Gene, I can't give him no card. That is going to be a yellow card for me. The ultimate arbiter here on Got Your Back is normally Terry Ryan. By the way, on location right now, shooting season 2 of Shoresy as his beloved character, Ted Hitchcock. I have to say, I sent this to him last night, you guys. We broke the ultimate arbiter. No. I was thinking this is going to be the best one ever. This absolutely mashed his brain. We broke the ultimate arbiter. Think about Terry Ryan, normally so energetic, so opinionated, so funny, all the things we love about the ultimate arbiter. Listen to this from Terry Ryan, guys. I got this message at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, anything I think of seems ignorant or cheesy. I don't really know where to go with it. I'm stumped. I can't think of a comparable either. All I can think is 3 strikes on 1 play, but
it's broken.
Me if I know what to say about it. Yeah, man, I'm sorry.
Listen to him.
So I'm going to go back to sleep, I guess. Okay, sorry.
Terry Ryan, the ultimate arbiter with nothing to offer on that one. Struds, you know TR well. We have him on the pod all the time. You ever heard him like that?
No. Speechless. I'd never heard him speechless. He always has a great, way of explaining things and quite funny. So yeah, I'm surprised. I think he had nothing to say. Maybe there must be a respect level there for the boss.
That's Gino's what? Somehow through all of this, Gene Principe won. He stumped the ultimate arbiter. He got no card from you. We showed a shirtless pic of him where he looks pretty damn good. I intended on kind of taking a bit of a shot at Gino today, lovingly. Yeah. He kicked all of our asses. Gene wins the day somehow.
Good looking guy.
All right, lots more to come here on the podcast, guys. Brady Tkachuk of the Ottawa Senators joined us. That's coming up after the break. Struddy, how'd you like your debut on the big pod, pal?
Well, I'm glad I could fulfill Pierre LeBrun's Make-A-Wish doing a podcast together. So put that in your diary tonight, Pierre.
Finally, after all your appearances on Overdrive, you come on our podcast. About time, man. Thank you.
By the way, you're going to make Overdrive again because that comment you made about Leaf fans, we're definitely going to clip it and promo it. So expect a call from O-Dog or somebody to go on the show again soon.
They only have me on when the Oilers lose, so I'll have to wait till after the playoffs.
So they haven't had you on in like a month. Yeah.
No, they don't, unless they're losing. And I called them out. They're like, no. Then they look back and like, oh, you might be right. Like, I know I'm right. Leafs winning, Oilers lose, Struddy gets a call. Other way around, no Struddy.
Nothing. Crickets. Great job today, pal. We'll talk again soon.
See you guys.
Lots more still to come here. I got your back. LeBrun, Rishaug, and Struddy. We want to tell you about a truly Canadian company. Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals provides equipment and supplies to all facets of the Canadian construction industry. But what sets them apart is their get-her-done attitude. It's a core value of their company. I've been to the offices. I've seen how they proudly display that on the wall at each branch. Every one of the staff members lives by the get-her-done formula to ensure they'll never let their customers down. They'll bend over backwards to get their clientele what they need when they need it. They don't make excuses. Cross Country Canada takes great pride in this attitude, and they truly believe that the success of their customer is their success. You can't get much more Canadian than that. All right, time now for Who's Got Your Back, brought to you by Liberty Smart Security. They are a company that specializes in having your and your family's back. They've got high-quality advanced smart security systems for your home or your business. They use leading-edge technology. I have it in my house. It's awesome, the number of things that you can do with this. Here's the beautiful thing about their security systems. If you're a techie type, it can be as advanced as you want, from like geofencing and having things set up automatically when you leave a certain area around your house to engage different things, like cameras and all sorts of stuff. And it can be as simple as you want to. If you just want to arm your security system and walk out of the house like Pierre, a little more simple on the technology front, they've got you covered there as well. Great systems. I've been protecting my family with one for about 7 years now, and it's awesome stuff. So protect the things that matter most to you with a Liberty Smart Security system. Visit libertysecurity.ca. All right, Pierre, we were thrilled to get Brady Tkachuk on the podcast today, and what a great interview. A lot of really cool things. What stood out to you in the questions that we asked him today?
I think the idea that, he's in the same division as his brother, and both Florida and Ottawa at one point were in the same playoff race, and obviously the Panthers are in now, the Senators are out. But I always think, the media is overcooking this whole brother angle, and maybe it's awkward to be in this. It's clearly this is a conversation within the family that the next several years the Panthers and the Senators are going to be battling it out in that division and both trying to make the playoffs. I mean, let's get a playoff series between those two teams one day. How good would that be?
For sure. Asked him the question about whether or not we would see him with the Florida faithful partying and cheering on his brother like he did with the Flames faithful last year. Really interesting answer to that question as well. Did you hear his dad chirping the Florida Panthers a few days ago? What was it like in their family chat after that happened? He answers that as well. Real great interview with Brady Tkachuk, courtesy Liberty Smart Security. He is about to complete his first point-a-game season in the National Hockey League. Brady Tkachuk joining us. Brady, thanks for taking some time. I know team success is what you're always focused on, but I wonder, is a point a game, is that a milestone that's kind of cool to hit for the first time at the National Hockey League level? What does that mean to you?
First off, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And it's something I almost didn't really expect. Just wanted to come in here. Coming in here this year, I felt more confident. Felt like I was going to take some new levels individually. But I was definitely confident in myself. But now for our team, I thought we made a lot of progress as well. And I think I've been fortunate to play with Timmy all year and G for most of the year. And I've been lucky to play with some two special players and those guys.
I often wonder about bragging rights in your house. And I imagine that team success is kind of top of the list. That gives you the ultimate bragging rights. But I wonder what's number two. What comes next? Because you've got your brother in penalty minutes and you had a heck of a year offensively. So what's next? Is it goals, points, penalty minutes? What's number two on the bragging rights list in the Tkachuk house?
I don't know. I think Matthew takes 2, 3, 4, and 5 with his all of his point totals too. So and then him, of course, just clinching playoffs. So I'll give them this year, but I've expected a little change down the road.
Yeah, and for a long time, you guys were in that same playoff race in the East, Brady. And listen, the expectations that your GM set out back in September when you had the news conference was that he wanted your team to play meaningful games past the trade deadline, which you guys did. Now, I know you're the captain of the team. You don't want to just play meaningful games. You want to get in. But can you talk about the steps that this team took? I mean, let's face it, a pretty big step from last year where the team finished.
I know it's kind of been in the race up until 3 games ago. It's I think people kind of forget what our objective and goal was, and I mean, of course, you get for myself and a lot of the guys who haven't experienced it before, just to get the taste of what the meaningful games, but what goes into playoffs and those types of games is just kind of getting a taste of that down the stretch. It's different this year. It's like you said, last year we're out, and the years before we're out, way earlier, just kind of just playing to play. But this year, just having that taste of what we want as a team and as an organization, and not making it, but going kind of to the very end. It hurts a lot more this year. It's definitely more kind of disappointing, but for me, the experience of the highs and lows and just taking it one game at a time and just learning throughout that process and that stretch of games. It's I know it's going to help our team in the long run.
I know you're still processing not making it this year. What would you say as you look forward to next year? Analyze the group you have coming back, the core you have. You feel you're a playoff team next year, ready to take that step?
I don't think we're going to put in an expectation or a set number of what we need to get to. I think the belief in our locker room, the belief in one another, it's taken another level this year. We have that belief that we're going to keep getting better. We have the key pieces and a lot of important people on our team, whether it's on the ice or off the ice in the leadership role as well. Everybody, I feel like, took another step in the leadership department too. So we're all, of course, disappointed with how kind of this season finished off, but I mean, you can already see guys ready to go and trying to kind of set the standard already going to next year.
Yeah, you mentioned the leadership role, Brady. It's not easy being a young captain in this league, and it happens to be that one of your line mates was a captain for a long time in Philadelphia. What has Claude Giroux's influence been like for you personally as you handle that leadership role? And I've known Claude for a long time. I don't think he loves losing a game. He's a pretty competitive guy. I don't think he's mellowed that much about that. And I have the sense that you're the same. But what's that like when you're going through good times and bad times, and his influence on you as a captain?
He's been unbelievable for me. It's not even just the on ice and learning from him, with his game. It's the off ice and how close we've gotten just this year. I feel like we've been playing together, my whole career, and I just how tight I feel like we are, and I mean, he's been great for our group. It's a completely different group than it was before he came. He's made us all better, and like you said, it's I don't even know if he definitely hates losing a game. I think he hates losing the puck, and that's it's something special to learn from, is that if somehow somebody takes a puck off, he'll do whatever it takes to get it back. So that's something that everybody sees, and we always kind of joke around with him. It's like, can't believe you're on the cover of NHL and we're playing with you. This is unbelievable. How did we have the honor to be able to be blessed with your presence all the time? So no, it's he's such a good guy, and just such a good person for the city and this organization as well.
I'm sure he just soaks that praise in too, right? He's probably the guy that goes, yeah, you are lucky to be playing with me.
Oh yeah. But there comes to a point, it's like, all right, guys, can we stop talking about it? Enough's enough.
That's funny. So there's talking about competitive nature. That's you through and through. You're one of the rare guys that can go out and get a point a game, score big goals at any given moment, but will also drop the gloves and scrap. In some ways, that makes you a bit of a target for the third and fourth liners out there who think, if I can get him off the ice for 5 minutes, that does my team well. I wonder what it's like for you as a point producer and a guy that's not afraid to do that. You find you're getting challenged more and more as your point totals go up, and how often do you have to turn fights down? Where are you at in terms of how often you want to be doing that to maintain your edge, but understanding your value too.
Definitely, I've learned probably a lot more this year when it comes to. I feel like my first couple of years, I wanted to establish myself as well, and I still think I could be better and offensively making plays, but also just overall as a team, just helping the team win. But yeah, it's I usually I think I've said this before. I don't like backing down from anybody. I don't care who it is, and confident in myself. And
but guys know that, right? They know that about you, so they're going to poke you.
Yeah, so definitely learn a little bit this year where I don't want to put the team in a bad spot where I have to learn just to pick and choose when to do it, because at the end of the day, I know I want to win, and I have to be a good leader to put ourselves in a good spot to win.
I come from a family of 4 brothers. I know what it's like to be agitated at your brother and want to go head flick him and lay a bit of a friendly beating on him. It's a completely different story when someone else gets aggressive with one of my brothers. It fascinates me, Brady, to watch you guys play against each other and what the dynamic is like for you when your teammates, your brothers, your guys are furious at your brother and want to beat the crap out of your brother. As a guy with brothers, I'm not sure how I would process that. What's that like for you when your buddies are so pissed at your brother all the time?
It's weird. It definitely is. I'm learning to kind of go with it and be like, what, but it's different now because now we're in the same division. Now we're
there's going to be more of it. He didn't exactly take it easy the other night.
No, absolutely not. So it's got to learn how to. Of course, we'll never do anything with each other. It's non-negotiable. But we're both leaders of our own teams too. So we have to kind of be able to kind of put the brothers aside and just focus on winning and making sure we're at our best playing wise and leadership wise to help the team win.
Are guys careful what they say about them around you, or can they just express their frustration? Like, man, your brother is, how's that go?
I think it's some guys like, I'm going to be honest with you. And then some guys I think do stay a little more quiet when they're talking about it. So I'm like, all right, you guys can say whatever you want.
I don't know if you remember this moment, Brady, but I remember when this happened, I was like, okay, this guy's the future captain of the Ottawa Senators. But I don't know if it was your rookie year or your second year, but you fought Shea Weber. And I remember when you first dropped the gloves, I was like, Brady, what are you doing? and of course you handled yourself quite well. And just because obviously Shea Weber's aura and guys who had fought him before, and you don't mess with Shea. I don't know if you remember that, but if you do, is that one of those moments where you're like, oh, I'll tell my kids about that one day? It is Shea Weber after all.
It was it's kind of weird how it happened. It was just a battle net front, and then all of a sudden, I think I cross-checked his leg or something, like something stupid or something when I was on the ground, and then all of a sudden he cross-checks me again, and it was weird because there's no words said, and then all of a sudden it just had that mutual, all right, it's happening, and then it was during COVID year, so it would have been cool if it was in front of a packed Bell Center, but it was definitely something that the family was watching. They're fired up. Got a lot of text after that one, but I don't think I realized it until after. I was like, well, what just happened?
Yeah, exactly.
One of the great Mountain, Mike Babcock nicknamed Shea Weber once.
That's biting off a major right there. One of the great joys of the playoffs last year was watching you, party along and enjoy the ride with your brother. I know you'd rather be in there. I know we all know that. Can we expect more of the same this year? Florida's a fun place to go. You reflect back on that, and there were some great scenes and some great moments. Are you going to be able to set aside your disappointment and follow along in the same way?
Unfortunately, the Florida faithful will not be experiencing my presence. It's different now. Same division. It's different. Right. Just a different vibe this year with us, where we're so close. But last year was we were out pretty early in February and weren't really expected to be there either. So it's usually my downtime too. So it's that in between where just rest, let the body recover from all the bumps and bruises. So I might be in Florida, but I'm definitely not going to any of their games.
Right. And putting you on the spot a little here, Brady, but obviously Team USA will be putting a team together for the Men's Worlds. Is that something that you would look at, or is it time to rest the body here?
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to think about it a little bit more. It's throughout the year, of course, just get a bunch of bumps and bruises throughout the years. So take some time, and then of course wanted to focus on our run and on our team down the stretch here. So as the season's winding down, definitely thinking about it more, and going to talk to the right people to figure it out. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Last one here before we get your got your back story. I hear your dad's taking credit for the Florida Panthers turnaround. Went a little public with some of his frustrations about their team being soft. Said they could take a page out of your book, the Ottawa Senators, because you play hard every night. Did that get a little awkward in the family chat there after he did that, or what? Where was your guys' heads at after Dad went off like that?
It was definitely quiet for a day, but just get a text last night after Chicago beat Pittsburgh, and all he said is "You're welcome." So no control over that game, but he's taking credit. He's been saying to me, "Is like if they get in, I'm executive of the year." So he's definitely taking this one and laughing about it. But they did it. So he's definitely proud of Matthew and everything he's done.
That's awesome. All right, Brady, the name of the podcast is Got Your Back. We love getting that story from somebody about a time in their life where somebody had their back. You skate around out there, have your teammates' back pretty much every night. So we ask you, who's had yours?
A lot of people, but the one that stands out and one that's been so impactful for me is, Mark Stone. He had my back my first day of training camp. He welcomed me into his home and he let me kind of learn off him at the house, and just he didn't have to welcome me into his home, but he made me feel like I was family right from day one, and made me feel like I was a part of this team right from when I got here.
Were you a good house guest? Like, how would you rate yourself as like you're a teenager living, in a home with a family? How were you?
Looking back, I was probably the worst house guest ever, but
why?
It allowed me just laundry all the time. Mark's wife Haley was doing my sheets and all my laundry. I just provided pretty much nothing. Didn't cook. I think Mark drove me every day, so it was it's a pretty good life for me. But I
didn't contribute a lot to the operation of the house.
Provided absolutely nothing. just hung out with the dogs.
Well, you remember that.
I just want to add a quick thing here that. Brady may or may not remember this, but in January, my son's hockey team was in Ottawa for a tournament, and we went to a game, and it was a tough loss for the Senators. They lost to the Jets that night, and I had prearranged with Claude Giroux for the boys, are 11 years old, to meet him after the game, and it was a really tough loss. It was great of Giroux to still come down and see the boys, but unbeknownst to me, I got a tap on my shoulder, and it was the captain of the Senators, Brady Tkachuk, who surprised the kids. And I got to tell you, the expression on the boys' faces when Brady Tkachuk shows up, especially after a tough loss like that, you know what, that was pretty cool for those kids. And I remember thinking that's what a young captain is all about in the NHL. That was pretty impressive, Brady.
Good stuff.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I know it's funny seeing the one kid, I forget who was, turned back, and all of a sudden all of them turned back. I was like, "Hey guys, there's still a picture we got to take." So
hey,
it was that was great. Funny. I remember that.
Awesome, Brady. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all your time. Listen, enjoy the off season, and really look forward to the Ottawa Senators and what you might be capable of next year.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys having me.
And our thanks once again to Brady Tkachuk for taking some time. I love that answer, Pierre. Like, the Florida faithful are not going to be enjoying Brady Tkachuk's company this year the way the Flames were. It's just different. He was right in there last year, but could you imagine him doing it with a division rival? Makes sense that he's not going to.
Yeah, he's making the right call for sure. And he wants his brother to do well, but at the same time, now this is just about the Senators for Brady Tkachuk. He's the captain, and he's already looking to next year. I like it.
He's a gamer, man. The way that he plays, that combination of scoring ability and scrappiness, bit of a throwback player here. He wasn't willing to guarantee a playoff spot for the Senators next year, Pierre. What do you think? Can Ottawa take the step?
They're close. I mean, getting Jacob Chychrun, and now they'll have him for a full year, right? I mean, imagine he'd be in their top 4 from the entire season. We might be talking about the Senators in the playoffs. Still got to see where the goaltending shakes out to me. That's the question I have. They got a big offseason. What do they do with the Brinkat with that big qualifying offer? So still some questions. And of course, we didn't even ask him that because it's really unfair. What's he going to say? But the whole ownership sale and how that, plays out here this summer, that's a pretty big deal too. And the reason I say that is that it could have an impact ultimately on some hockey decisions. So let's see where that goes.
One thing we know about the Senators, though, with Stützle there and Tkachuk there, they're going to be a fun team to watch. They always are, and they're a fun team to keep an eye on. So, again, thanks to Brady Tkachuk and the Ottawa Senators for taking some time to join us. Great job today, Pierre. We'll chat with you again. I think we may try and do a playoff preview this weekend coming up. So maybe a bonus Got Your Back NHL pod coming up as the matchups get square. Enjoy the action tonight in the NHL, my friend, and we'll chat with you soon. That's going to wrap up the podcast. Huge thanks to our sponsors, Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals, Kuma Outdoor Gear, check out that switchback chair, and Liberty Smart Security Systems as well. Appreciate your downloads and your subscriptions, folks. Look forward to chatting with you in a couple of days. Have a fantastic finish to your day. Cheers.